of sports anchors in the country might have easily forgotten them. And that's our conversation on Sports Live tonight. The woman behind the microphones joining me on our TV anchors, Lebo Tinan, as well as Vusiwe and Gobo. Ladies, good evening. It's Women's Month. It's only fair.
Good evening.
Oh, is this a favor?
Yeah.
It's about time.
In fact, Pearl was supposed to do this interview, but because it's Women's Month, she must just relax.
Okay.
Let me start with you, Vusiwe. I call you a TV anchor and personality. Then the question comes in, what has Vusiwe done, first and foremost, for people, for our viewers at home who say, okay, we heard you say that, what has she done in terms of that?
Well, I hope they haven't forgotten me. That's one of the most important things. But I got into sports presenting in 2009, so I was introduced to the industry at a very young age, but I was just a general TV presenter. I started out doing kids TV on Euro TV, did a couple of talk shows, but sport has always been one of my greatest loves. So at some point and another, I was like, okay, so I really love this presenting thing, but I also love sports, so why can I not find a way to actually be able to do what I love and get paid for it? Yes. and that's when I got introduced to being a sport presenter.
Yeah, I think top of your list, if I'm looking at some of the things you've done, Olympic Games, one of them.
Yes.
Paralympic Games.
Yes.
Comrades Marathon.
Yes.
Two
Oceans Marathon.
You see, now
it's a lot. It's a lot. But what I decided when I got into sport, I said to myself, you know, I don't want to be the pretty girl that can stand there and can read SMSs or whatever. And I don't want you to look at me and be like, oh, shame, she's a good sports anchor for a woman. I want you to look at me and be like, she's a great sports presenter, period, you know. And I wasn't trying to have that comparison. So
I think that's the conversation, actually. That's the conversation that I wanted us to have tonight, Lebo. I mean, you've been, I said to you, you're fairly old. I mean, old in terms of television. Not old. But you've been there, done that throughout. I mean, I can easily say that. I mean, there's nothing we haven't done as an anchor and as far as women's concerned. Then there are those challenges. I mean, Vusiwe mentioned something. I do not want to be seen as that lady who reads the tweets. And those are obviously comparisons that one sits back at home and says, oh yeah, she does a tweet today, and that's about it. And it's always a matter of you guys having to justify your reason for doing sports, if I can put it that way.
I don't think it's so much justifying, it's more than proving. You know, you constantly have to prove that you're good enough to do it. And I think either way, I think it's not with just this industry, it's with any industry that's male dominated, that you constantly have to prove yourself. Sports is that it's done by men. So many of it is done by men. So for me, it was a case of, I'm going to work hard anyway. You know, it's something that you love. Like Vusiwe said, if you love it that much, it doesn't become work anymore. It just becomes every day. You know, the fact that you didn't read a newspaper for day, or you didn't even hear a sports bulletin, it doesn't quite feel like a proper Wednesday.
Because I mean, it always comes in. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, okay, catch up news. Okay, no. First and foremost, back page. I mean, that's almost how one takes it as a sports reporter. Then you get to a situation when you say, okay, Vusiwe says she's done Comrades, she's done Two Oceans, but really, what is she good at? And it's always the question we ask ourselves as media personnel: is that do you specialize? What makes a good media person, especially in sports? Do you have to specialize in one thing, or the broader knowledge of sports in itself keeps you a step ahead of the pack, so to speak?
Well, I think the broader knowledge of sports is always important. And depending on the direction that you want to take personally, I mean, I may love sports in its entirety, but I may want to focus solely on football. And it just depends from individual to individual. But what I always say is, Wuti, you need to love what you're doing. There is nothing as a presenter and as a sports lover that frustrates me more than turning on the TV and watching a sports anchor. And I'm like, did you prepare? What is it that you're doing? And it's actually frustrating because sports lovers know their sports. So if you're going to come here and tell me Izinto, and I'm just like, okay, clearly you've prepared 5 questions for this interview. You're not even listening to what your guest is saying. You've got so many follow-up questions you could be asking, but you're not, because when this for you is just, okay, let me get paid, let me make money, and it's not a passion. And if it is a passion and it is an interest, then you'll always know what's going on in and around the world of sport. sport. So for me, as a female sports presenter, I think it's important for young women to actually take this opportunity with both hands. Already it's a very male-dominated industry. So here you are given a platform and you think it's enough to be pretty. It's never enough. Yes, it's on TV, but at the end of the day, can you please deliver what you're expected to deliver?
Respect the game.
I was just going to say that because, you know, earlier this morning we spoke, another colleague of ours, Natalie Jamanas, and I know that when she commentates, with cricket in particular, there's always men saying, but where are the guys? Where's your Gary Kirsten commentator? Do you go through the lot? I mean, personally, I know you do a lot of live events as well. Do you guys still get that? People speak in the back of you saying, oh man, she's talking rubbish. Or when you speak, they want to listen to make sure that you're actually saying something proper.
And I think to a certain extent, it also makes you a bit nervous as well. You walk into something different. For instance, you know, when I started in this industry, golf wasn't my, you know, my strongest point. But I said to myself, I'm going to understand the underpass. I'm going to understand, you know, what this sport is about. And you find yourself having to go the extra mile to say, look, if it means that guy must give me a different look.
And we're seeing on TV right now. Is that you? That's you.
Oh, that is so awkward. That is just too awkward.
but again, I think it's more, like you're saying, it's more about proving not to yourself, but to them. But then in the same breath saying, no, but I know I can do it.
Yes.
Do I really have to prove it to them?
But you also know that you're good enough as well. You know, I can imagine somebody that I look up to, like a Natalie Jamanas, for instance. I don't think anybody knows cricket as much as Natalie Jamanas does. But the fact that she feels it should tell you just how hard this industry, just how difficult and just how hard we all have to work for it. That for somebody like Natalie Jamanas, it's like saying to Cass Naidu that, how good is your cricket? But I imagine she feels it too. That
because we had this conversation with my editor as well, Janet Whitten, and we all know she's a lady, and she said the exact same thing. She says, you know, it's frustrating as a woman that you go out there and you have to prove yourself day in and day out. Then, and both of you have mentioned something in common. Then there's a scenario where her job is just to read tweets, her job is to be nice, and it puts paid to all the efforts that you guys have made throughout the years to actually build a career and be, you know, ratified, yours, glorified, because you deserve it.
I think for as well as a television station, if then you need to weigh where you are. You know, are you in it for the viewers? Which any managing director will tell you, if it brings in the numbers, if it's a World Cup and it must bring a pretty face to get more viewers, then so be it. But then it undoes all that work. All of us that have been that have been building up to the same World Cup that we've been building up to. And then when it comes, you're like, oh, okay, is that the route that we're going now? That's those same pretty faces disappear after the World Cup. They're doing some music show in.
I'll tell you what, I know, Lebo, you still, in fact, you're waking up very early tomorrow morning, yes?
Yeah.
So I want to let you go, but you are now the new face of. This is breaking, right? This is now right here on SABC Sports Live. You are now our new anchor of what?
I'm a new anchor of a lot of things.
On SABC.
But you must just wait. You must just wait. Patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue.
Apparently they say it's got to do with gloves.
It's massive, it's exciting, it's something I've always loved, and I think it's going to be a great challenge. Like I said, once again, for me, it's always about stepping up and just saying to people, you've put in this confidence in me, and now all I have to do is get there and deliver. And the thing you show is, which is sometimes you're not too familiar with certain aspects of a certain sport, like you with your golf. But then you need to get to a position where you're like, I am serious about what I'm doing. I want to see this become a career for me and long term. And then you make sure that you're knowledgeable.
I was hearing go as well as Lebo tonight, speaking to us right on SABC Sports Live. I tell you, in fact, apparently I'm not allowed to say it, but it's got to do with gloves. And it's on SABC every Friday. All you have to do is tune into the channel. You'll see exactly what I'm speaking about. Thank you very much, there, ladies, for joining us on the channel, speaking about women in sports and the trials and tribulations. I don't want to call it that because you guys have achieved so much, but thank you very much indeed for joining us on Sports.